So, with a big crowd today, so, at least Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda with us. Even if everybody else is sleeping. So we're going to chant Nityananda Nishta, which is a poem by Narottamadas Thakur. So, Nitai Padakamala Koti Chandra Shushitala Nitai Padakamala Koti Chandra Shushitala Yechaya Jagachurai Ye Jaya Jagachurai Hey no Nitai Bine Bai Radha Krishna Paite Nai Hey no Nitai Bin Bai Radha Krishna Paite Nai Rinakorina entire pie Say sambandana hiya Brita janma gela utar Say pashu boro dura jara Nitaina polilo muke higi Majilo samsara suke Vijakule kigo ripe tara Ankara bata koya Nitai pada pasariya Atsachere Sachakori mani Nitaya Koruna Hoime Braje Radha Krishna Poime Daronitaya Charana Tukane Nitya Charana Satya Tara Sevaka Nitya Nitai Palat Sadakuro Hasa Narottama Borotoki Nitai More Korosuki Rakaranga Charanera Pasha Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Sushi Tala Ye Chayat Jagachurai Jaya Lord Nitya Jaya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Rit Nityananda Jaya Nityananda Rai 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 Nityananda Rai Nityananda Rai Jaya Nityananda Rai Nityananda Rai Jaya Nityananda Rai Nityananda Rai Jaya Nityananda Rai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravatacharya also Teta Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Friends, say Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Swayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturidam Ki Jai Chakratha Sami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasidevi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale. Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deja Tarane. So, today we are celebrating the glorious appearance day of Lord Nityananda. So, Omagana Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shlakya Chakshuran Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, what I'm going to do first is read Srila Prabhupada's commentary on the song Nityananda Nishta. That means faith or determination. Nishta means steadiness in the service of Lord Nityananda. And of course, as we know, Lord Nityananda is the original guru. He is Balaram Hoila Nitai, and as the original guru, Nayamatma Bala Hinena Labwa. No one can get Krishna's mercy without Lord Nityananda's mercy. And one gets Lord Nityananda's mercy by serving Lord Nityananda's servant, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So, we are going to read Srila Prabhupada's commentary on this song, and which is actually a commentary and translation combined, rather than the translation in the book. So, this is from Srila Prabhupada. This is a song by Narottama Das Thakur, a great acharya of this Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. He has written many songs about the Vaishnava philosophy, and they are proved as completely corresponding with Vedic instructions. In other words, the words of the acharyas are Vedic instructions, are just as good as the Vedas. So the words of Srila Prabhupada are just as good as the Vedas. So here Narottama Das Thakur is singing that the whole world is suffering under the blazing fire of material existence. Therefore, one should take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, because it is as cooling as the moon rays combined together of millions of moons. And I was listening to a class of Srila Prabhupada this morning. He was talking about the threefold miseries, Adhyatmic, Adhibodic, and Adhidaivic miseries from the body and mind, miseries from other living entities, and miseries from the material energy in general. And it is a fact that this whole material world is on blazing fire. But that means that one will immediately find a peaceful atmosphere, just like a man works the whole day. If he comes under the moonshine, he feels relief. Similarly, any materialistic man who comes under the shelter of Lord Nityananda will immediately feel that relief. Wow. So what does it mean to come under the shelter of Lord Nityananda? It means to come under the shelter of Lord Nityananda's representative, Srila Prabhupada. And what does it mean, shelter? Shelter means following the instructions, and therefore understanding Krishna will take care of you. Shraddha Shabde Visha Shakahe Sudrida Nishya. Then he says, Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Shushital Ye Chayai Jagat Jurai Hena Nitai Bine Bai Radha Krishna Poite Nai. He says that if you were anxious to go back to home, back to Godhead, and become associated with Radha and Krishna, then the best policy is to take shelter of Nityananda. It's interesting. It's actually expressed, the verse by Narottama Das Thakur is expressed in the negative, Radha Krishna Paite Nai, you won't achieve. You understand? So Prabhupada's here presenting in the positive, which is the same thing. So he says, you won't achieve the shelter of Radha and Krishna unless you take shelter of Lord Nityananda. And then Prabhupada says, the best policy is to take shelter of Nityananda. So, in other words, you can't go back to Godhead without taking shelter of Nityananda. Then he says, say Sambandha Nahi Yar Brita Janma Gelatar. It's also a statement in the negative, but it's positive. One who has not been able to contact Nityananda, then one should think of himself that he has simply spoiled his valuable life. Brita Janma Gela. Brita means for nothing, and Janma means life. Sometimes it means birth. Gela Tara, spoiled, because he has not made connection with Nityananda. Nityananda, the very name suggests, Nitya means eternal, Ananda means pleasure or bliss. Material pleasure is not eternal. That is the distinction. Therefore, those who are intelligent, they are not interested in this flickering pleasure of the material world. Every one of us, as living entity, we are searching after pleasure. But the pleasure we are seeking, that is flickering, temporary, that is not pleasure. Real pleasure is Nityananda, eternal bliss. So anyone who has no contact with Nityananda, it is to be understood that his life is spoiled. Se sambandha nahiyar vrita janma gela tara. Se pashu vada durachar. Narottamadas Thakur uses here a very harsh word. He says that such human being is an animal, and an uncontrollable animal. Probably is very heavy here, as there are some animals that cannot be tamed. So anyone who has not contacted Nityananda, he should be considered an untamed animal. Se pashu vado durachar. Of course, at the same time, we don't address people like that. We just understand they're acting as an untamed animal. You know, if we treated people like that, we'd never make any devotees. Why? Because Nitai Nabo Lilo Muke. He never uttered the holy name of Nityananda. Anma Jalilo Sangsara Suke. And become immersed into this material happiness. Vijakule ki korave tar. That nonsense does not know that. In other words, Prabhupada's using the word nonsense here as a noun. So sometimes it's used, as an adverb or as an adjective. You understand? Adjective or adverb. So now it's used as a noun. That nonsense, in other words, that's a person. Nonsense. The person is a nonsense. It's like rascal. Prabhupada's using it in the same sense as rascal. So it's interesting how Prabhupada would use sometimes an adjective as a noun. Usually you say that nonsense person or that nonsense rascal. But here, that nonsense does not know that. In other words, someone is a nonsense. Then what will his education and family and tradition and nationality will help him? These things cannot help him. These are all temporary things. Simply, if we want eternal pleasure, we must contact Nityananda, Vijakule ki korave tar. Vijay means education and Kula means family, nationality. So we may have a very nice family connection, or we may have a very nice national prestige. But after ending this body, these things will not help me. I'll carry my work with me, and according to that work, I shall have to accept by force another type of body. It may be something other than a human body. So these things cannot protect us or give us the real pleasure. So Narottamadas Thakur advises Vijakule ki korave tar. Then he says, Ahankara, mata haina, being maddened after false prestige and identification, false identification with the body and prestige of bodily relationships. This is called ahankara matahoyana. One is mad after this false prestige, ahankara matahoya, nitai para pasariya. Due to this false prestige, we are thinking, what is Nityananda? What can he do for me? We don't care. So, pasariya asachere sacha korimani. The result is that I am accepting something which is false. Quite a long purport here. For example, I'm accepting this body. This body, I'm not this body. Therefore, with false identification, I'm coming entangled more and more. So one who is puffed up with this false prestige, ahankara matahayana, nitai parapasriya, asachere sachakori mani, he accepts something wrong as right. That's interesting. It's like I was listening to when I was driving yesterday, I was listening to the Jiva Dharma, and there was this one, actually, there's one uh, young devotee. His name was Nityananda. And he was asking uh, the senior Babaji, he said, what is my position? I'm a Kanishta, Majjhima, or Uttama Adhikari. When he didn't say it was Uttama, Maya Kanishta or Majjhima Adhikari. And he revealed himself and he said, sometimes, the real problem he has, he doesn't have a problem with attraction to the opposite sex or anything like that. But his problem was that he was manifesting symptoms of ecstasy because of false prestige, because of ahankara. And then it's interesting how this ahankara can manifest in ways that we don't normally ascribe ahankara to. Ahankara means false ego. It can even manifest in terms of ecstatic symptoms that we are manifesting prematurely for the wrong reasons, basically maybe to impress people or to feel ourselves to be a great devotee. And the senior Babaji, he said, you got to control that basically, because that will cause you ultimately, right now, you are a Majjhima Adhikari, and ultimately you will go down to the stage of Kanishta if you don't control this. In other words, he was just looking for respect amongst the devotees. Interesting, isn't it? So it's ahankara mata hoina, nitai parapashriya sacha re sacha koramani. So it's interesting that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur named that particular devotee Nityananda. It really has some indication there. And of course, this is, a fictional account, actually, by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the Jiva Dharma. And he named him Nityananda to indicate that one has to accept the shelter of Lord Nityananda's feet. And then one can overcome even the subtle aspects of Krishna consciousness, the subtle aspects of Maya, and of course, the Acharyas describe that's one of the causes of anarthas, the byproducts of bhakti, false prestige, when you manifest something nice in Krishna consciousness. So we shouldn't prematurely manifest ecstatic symptoms, nor should we imitate the great devotees. We should follow in their footsteps. Then he says, Nitaira Koruna Hoibe Braje Radha Krishna Paibe. If you were actually serious about going back to home, back to Godhead, then please seek after the mercy of Nityananda. Nitaira Karuna Hoibe Braje Radha Krishna Paibe. Dharanitai Charana Dukkani. Please catch up the lotus feet of Nityananda. Then he says, Nitai Charana Sacha. One may think that as we catch hold of so many shelters, but in this material world, later on, they prove false. Similarly, suppose we catch hold of the lotus feet of Nityananda, it may also prove false. He's posing a question, a rhetorical question here. But Narottama Das Thakur assures that Nitai Charana Sacha, it is not false, because Nityananda is eternal. Tattva, Vishnu Tattva. When we talk about tattvas, that's something eternal. His lotus feet are also eternal. Tahara Sevaka Nitya. And anyone who takes shelter of Nityananda, they also become eternal. Without being eternal, no one can serve the eternal. That is the Vedic injunction. Without becoming Brahman, one cannot approach the Supreme Brahman. Just like without being fire, no one can enter into the fire. Without being water, no one can enter into the water. Similarly, without being fully spiritualized, nobody can enter into the spiritual kingdom. So, Nitai Charana Sacha. If you catch the lotus feet of Nityananda, then you become immediately spiritualized. Just like if you touch electricity, immediately you become electrified. Wow. This is natural. Similarly, Nityananda is eternal happiness. If you touch Nityananda in some way or other, let me repeat that. If you touch Nityananda in some way or other, then you become also eternally happy. Tahara sevaka nitya. Therefore, one who has contacted Nityananda, they have become eternal. Nitai chanana satya tahara sevaka nitya. Dridakori doro nitai pai. So just catch him very tightly. Naratama baro duki nitai more koro suki. At the last, Narottama Das Thakur, the composer of this song, is appealing to Lord Nityananda. My dear Lord, I am very unhappy, so you please make me happy, and you kindly keep me in the corner of your lotus feet. That is the sum and substance of this song. So, in the mood of Narottama Das Thakur, we should cry out to Lord Nityananda. Nitai, Nitai. And of course, by serving the servants of Lord Nityananda, then we can get Lord Nityananda's mercy. Just like Krishna says, one who is, in the Adi Purana, Krishna says, one who says he is my devotee is not my devotee, but one who says he is a devotee of my devotee is my devotee. So one who says he's a servant of Nityananda, but he's not a servant of Nityananda's devotees, he's not pleasing Nityananda, because Nityananda's original guru. So, now I'm going to read from and comment from the Adi Leela, chapter 5, which talks about the ontology of Lord Nityananda. Ontology means who he is. So we're going to begin from the 4th verse of the 5th chapter of the Adi Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the fountainhead of all incarnations. Of course, that's from the Bhagavatam. Ete changsa kalak pumsa Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam. Lord Balaram is his second body. These two are one and the same identity. So Lord Balaram and Nityananda are the same. They differ only in form. Lord Balaram is the first bodily expansion of Krishna, and he assists in Lord Krishna's transcendental pastimes. That original Lord Krishna appeared in Navadvip as Lord Chaitanya, and Balaram appeared with him as Lord Nityananda. May Nityananda Ram be the object of my constant remembrance. Sankarshan, Sheshanag, and the Vishnus who lie in the Karana ocean, Garbha ocean, and ocean of milk are his plenary portions and the portions of his plenary portions. So that's a little ontology there. That first you have Krishna, Balaram, that's Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and then you have the second quadruple expansion, which is Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and then the third. So in the first expansion of Krishna is Lord Balaram. And Lord Balaram is the original Sankarshana. He assumes 5 other forms to serve the Lord. He himself helps in the pastimes of Lord Krishna, and he does the work of creation in 4 other forms. And you're talking about the Mahavishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, Shuddhadakshay Vishnu, and Sheshanag. He executes the orders. So Sheshanag holds up all the planets. See, he executes the orders of Lord Krishna in the work of creation and the form of Shesha. He serves Krishna in various ways. In all these forms, he tastes the transcendental bliss of serving Krishna. That same Balaram is Lord Nityananda, the companion of Lord Gaurasundara. I have explained the 7th verse and the 4 subsequent verses. By these verses, all over the world can know the truth about Lord Nityananda. Incidentally, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is a devotee of Lord Nityananda. He's counted amongst the devotees of Lord Nityananda. And he was the author, of course, of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. and we're reading his words right now. I surrender into the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, who is known as Sankarshanan, in the midst of the Chatur Vyuha. Again, we talk about the Chatur Vyuha, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Prajuna, and Aniruddha. He possesses full opulences and resides in Vaikuntha Loka, far beyond the material creation. Let me just skip a little here, because there's a description of this is all ontology here, description of the spiritual world. Let's see, I'm going to skip this. This is not, I mean, it's always applicable, but we wanted to speak more about Lord Nityananda himself. So here we're talking about, let's see, I think that's it for this particular chapter. Okay. So let's speak a little bit about Lord Nityananda's pastimes, his appearance pastimes, and already we talked about his ontology, and how he serves in the Chaitanya Bhagavad. It's described that Lord Nityananda serves, and Shesh serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead as all of his various paraphernalia, such as umbrella, bed, thread, pillow, the temple, the Singasana. He serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Lakshman in his various incarnations. So he appeared in Radhadesh, and his father's name was Hadai Pandit. His mother's name was Padmavati. And it's described that his father was extremely attached to him. His father could not live without him. You know, Ekachakra. Ekachakra was the place, but it's in Radhadesh. So, father was extremely attached and could not live without him. So his childhood pastimes are quite interesting. He would depict the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, various pastimes, such as praying, and also the pastimes in Dwarka, and also the pastimes of Lord Ramchandra, and actually the various pastimes. So he would enact the pastime of the demigods praying for Lord Brahma, and then Vasudeva and Devaki's marriage, and the killing of Putana, and the killing of the Shakatasura, the cart demon, the story of the Krishna stealing butter, Krishna dancing on the heads of Kaliya. He would do all these pastimes as a child. The killing of the Dhenukasura, the Bakasura, Gazasura, Vatsasura, lifting up Govardhan Hill, stealing the clothes of the gopis, the pastime of Narada Muni, talking to Kamsa, pastimes of the gopis crying in separation, and then Krishna entering Mathura and killing the wrestlers, and then he would enact other pastimes of the Lord, such as the story of Lord Vamanadev and someone to take the part of Shukracharya. Then especially it's mentioned how he would depict the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. How he played the part of Lakshman. Played the part of Lakshman, and then what happened is when Lakshman was hit by the Shakti Shila weapon, Lakshman was knocked unconscious, and everyone thought that Lakshman was going to pass away. But actually, obviously, he wasn't going to pass away because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he would depict this pastime, and when he depicted the pastime, he became unconscious, practically speaking. Everybody thought he was in a coma and he was going to pass away. We're talking about now Lord Nityananda depicting the pastime. And then everyone gathered around him, and they were all worried about Lord Nityananda. Finally, one of the associates of Lord Nityananda realized that Lord Nityananda had instructed that if this happened, that associates should play the part of Hanuman and go to the Gandha Madana hill and bring back the Mritu Sanjeevani. And he brought back the Mr. Sanjeevani, and then Lakshman came back to external consciousness. So for 12 days, 12, sorry, for 12 years, Lord Nityananda resided at home. And as I mentioned before, his father was extremely attached to him, extremely attached to him. And so then a sannyasi came, and this, of course, is very similar to the story of Viswamitra coming to see Dasarath and asking for Lord Ramchandra. So sannyasi came to his home, and a sannyasi said, I don't have any personal servants, so please give me your son. So in those days, that if someone, a sannyasi especially, asked for something, then you were duty bound to give it to him. And so Lord Nityananda's father, Adai Pandit, was thinking, how can I give Nityananda away, or Nitai away? So he gave him basically to the sannyasi. And he was watching in the path as Lord Nityananda the sannyasi went off into the sunset. And it's described he fasted for 3 months and still didn't leave his body. Just feeling separation. So you actually see in practically all of the Lord's pastimes in his various incarnations, there's this mood of vipralamba, or intense separation. In Lord Ram's pastime, certainly you have Sita Devi put into the ashram of Valmiki Muni and experiencing separation from Lord Ram experiencing separation from Sita Devi, Krishna's pastimes. You have Krishna leaving Vrindavan and the gopis feeling separation. Yugayitam nimishena chakshusha pravashayitam shunyayitam jagat sarvam govinavahename. And in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, you have Lord Chaitanya taking sannyas at an early age, 24, and leaving Vishnu Priya, his widow, she was about 16 years old, and her feeling separation for her whole life, his mother feeling separation. So you see there's a constant theme. And of course, one should not think that when the Lord enacts these pastimes and the devotees or the Lord experience separation, this is something cruel, although the devotees may sometimes think it's cruel, but it's not cruel. It's actually the Lord's plan to bring the devotee closer to him. As they say, even in America, we say that absence makes the heart grow fonder. So when you're feeling intense absence from someone, you actually hanker and want to be with them even more. So anyway, and not only does the heart grow fonder, but one is more connected because the Lord's association is not dependent upon physical proximity. One may be in physical proximity to someone, but a million miles away, because it depends on one's consciousness, where one's mind is. So you see this theme throughout the Lord's pastimes. So anyway, so then Lord Nityananda went away with this sannyasi, and actually didn't remain that long with the sannyasi. So this was the mercy of Lord Nityananda to actually bring his parents to this high mood of vipralamba. So for 20 years he went on pilgrimage. Oh, actually, another thing I forgot to mention is that when Lord Chaitanya appeared in this world, which is way after Lord Nityananda appeared, because Lord Nityananda was much older by external estimation than Lord Chaitanya, then Lord Nityananda roared, and nobody knew why he was roaring. But actually he understood that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna himself, had appeared in this world. So for 20 years he went on pilgrimages, described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. He went to Gaya. Gaya is a place, of course, where the Pinda is performed. That is the ceremony for one's departed ancestors. He visited Vrindavan, and he remembered his pastimes in Vrindavan. He went to Hastinapur. He went to Dwarka, Ayodhya, Ayodhya, uh, Guhaka, and that's where the Nishada associate of Lord Ramchandra lived. And Nishada means like a lower class associate who went to school with Lord Ramchandra. He was a village, not village, but a jungle, as Prabhupada would say, jungli. That's how Prabhupada would pronounce it, jungli. Because the jungli people. That means in India that's called the Adivasis or things like that. So that's Guhaka, who was actually very close to Lord Ramchandra. Sri Parvata, where Parvati, the supreme goddess, Durga, cooked for Lord Nityananda. So then he went to Bhadravik Ashram. Very quickly, I'm describing this. And where he received the hospitality of Srila Vyasadeva. I guess Vyasadeva cooked for him, arranged for him. And as he was traveling, another thing happened, was quite interesting. He encountered some Buddhists. So he asked the Buddhists a question, and they did not answer. It's actually very similar to when Lord Chaitanya met the Buddhists, and the Buddhists tried to blaspheme Lord Chaitanya by giving him some untouchable food. And then a big bird picked up the untouchable food before Lord Chaitanya touched it and dropped it. And the plate fell on the head of the chief Buddhist, and everyone thought the chief Buddhist was going to die or was in coma. And Lord Chaitanya got all the Buddhists to chant the holy name and initiate their own spiritual master, who then came back to consciousness. So in a similar way, Lord Nityananda became angry at the Buddhists, and instead of, arranging for a plate to hit their head or heads, he kicked them all. And that would be nice, being kicked by the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. And in his travels, he met Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri, of course, is the spiritual master of the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, spiritual master of Ishwara Puri, and also of Advaitacharya. So he met Madhavendra Puri, and when he met them, they both fainted and cried for many, many days and nights. So, and then he went to Jagannath Puri and saw Lord Jagannath with 4 arms, and then eventually he went back to Vrindavan. He was waiting till Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested his pastimes as a devotee, because previously Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu acted like he was basically just someone interested in logic, and he would go around and defeat the devotees by logic. And the devotees got so upset they would pray to Krishna for the benefit of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who said, please let Nimai Pandit become a devotee, because if he becomes a devotee, then he'll be a very good preacher. So they were praying like that. So when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took initiation from Ishwara Puri, then he manifested his pastimes as the best devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So he was waiting, and finally Lord Chaitanya began his pastimes as a devotee, and then Lord Nityananda came to Navadvip. But he resided on the outskirts of Navadvip in the house of a devotee named Nandanacharya. And Lord Chaitanya knew that Lord Nityananda had arrived, and he told the devotees, look for him. And they all looked for him everywhere, and they couldn't find him. And Lord Chaitanya knew, and he went with all the devotees to Nandanacharya's house, and Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda embraced each other, and then the pastimes in Navadvip started. So in the Navadvip pastimes, Lord Nityananda acted as basically the son of Srivas Thakur and Malini. And the reason that that happened, that he acted as the son, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also acted as a son, but Lord Nityananda acted as a son in, let's say, radical ways. Sometimes he would sit on Malini's lap as a son and even drink her breast milk. And remember, he was an adult at this particular point. And of course, uh, Srivas Thakur and Malini were quite old too. So he had these pastimes with Srivas Thakur and Malini. But the reason for that is when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was attending the kirtan at Srivas Thakur's house. Whoops, what happened here? Hold on a second. Oh, I see. It's showing the deities now. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was enacting this kirtan at Srivas Thakur's house, Srivas Thakur's son died, and Srivas Thakur, not wanting to interfere with the kirtan, didn't say anything until the kirtan was over, and then Lord Chaitanya said, something has happened here. Srivas Thakur revealed it, and Lord Chaitanya said, why didn't you stop and tell me what was happening? Srivas Thakur said, I didn't want to destroy your ecstasy or hurt your ecstasy. So then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to where Srivas Thakur's dead son was, brought him back to life for a few minutes, and he said, I passed away during this kirtan. So many fathers and mothers I have had. And then he went back to Godhead. So then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, from now on, myself and Lord Nityananda will be your sons. So he was actually treated like that. Lord Nityananda specifically was treated like that, like a son of Srivas Thakur. One day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tested Srivas Thakur insofar as his devotion for Lord Nityananda. He said to Srivas Thakur that, why are you hosting this Lord Nityananda, this Nityananda, when nobody knows what his background is? This Avaduta. And so Srivas Thakur said, I will not be dissuaded from my dedication to Lord Nityananda's lotus feet, even if he marries a Muslim girl or even if he enters a liquor room. So that was, Lord Chaitanya was very, very pleased with Srivas Thakur for his dedication to Lord Nityananda. Of course, Lord Nityananda was an Avaduta and is an Avaduta. Avaduta means, the word means like the wind. He would act in many, many unusual ways. For example, he would, as a so-called sannyasi or renunciate, he would have jewelry all over his body, and of course that would sometimes attract the attention of dacoits or thieves. So then that leads to this famous story of Lord Nityananda and the dacoits. Once upon a time, Lord Nityananda was having his kirtans every night, and he was dressed with these jewels, and the thieves and the dacoits saw that, and they made a plan as to how they could steal the jewelry of Lord Nityananda. So their plan was that they would wait until everybody was sleeping at night and go in and steal the jewelry and attack and kill people or whatever they were going to do. So the first night, they went to try to attack Lord Nityananda's place where he was having kirtan, and they discovered that there were these gigantic Vaikuntha guards outside the house. Gigantic people, and they got scared. They said, well, now's not the time to deal with this. So they decided, no, better not. Actually, the first night I got it a little wrong. First night they were thinking so much about the wealth, they fell asleep talking about the wealth. And it was the morning before they woke up. And the second night, when they tried to attack Lord Nityananda, they saw these gigantic, like 8 or 9 feet or 10 feet tall Vaikuntha guards just chanting Hare Krishna and surrounding the house. And then they decided, let's wait until these guards go away. Then the third time that they tried, they saw, they didn't see anything. It started raining basically cats and dogs and pus and whatever was coming from the sky. And they became blinded and they fell into ditches. And they were completely upset. And then the head of the dacoits started to pray to Lord Nityananda, please forgive us. We take shelter of you. Then he got his sight back. He approached Lord Nityananda, became a great devotee, and the dacoits became great devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's a wonderful story there. And then, of course, there's the famous story of Jagai and Madai, these two dacoits. Actually, they were more than dacoits. They were robbers, thieves, rapists, and whatever else they did. And Lord Chaitanya, here's the whole story. Lord Chaitanya sent Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur out to preach Krishna consciousness. So they were asked to get everyone to chant Hare Krishna. That's how they preached. I guess they didn't have book distribution at that particular point. So they would go door to door and say, please chant Hare Krishna and worship Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So as they were going door to door, they approached these two rascals, Jagai and Madai. And when they approached these two rascals got angry with them and started chasing them. And Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda would exchange different words, and Haridas Thakur said to Lord Nityananda, this Avaduta has gotten us into trouble today. So I'm going to report you to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You know, running and joking with each other like that. So then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood that these two dacoits would eventually get Lord Nityananda's mercy. So eventually they went back, and Madai hit Lord Nityananda at this particular point on the head with a piece of a broken pot. And Lord Nityananda started bleeding, and when the devotees found out about that and informed Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rushed there, and he raised his Sudarshan chakra, getting ready to kill Jagai and Madai. And then Lord Nityananda begged Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to forgive Jagai and Madai, and Lord Chaitanya said, I will forgive Jagai, but not Madai, because Jagai stopped Madai from hitting Lord Nityananda a second time. And then it was understood that Madai was like, and Jagai, they were just like part of the same person. They weren't the same person, but they were so close. And so Madai begged for forgiveness, and Lord Nityananda forgave him, and they became great devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these are some of the pastimes that occurred with Lord Nityananda, and there's more pastimes which I'm going to talk about tonight. So now I'd like to read a little bit about from the Chaitanya Bhagavat about Lord Nityananda. So we'll finish class reading from. We have 5 more minutes. Lord Nityananda, who is the supreme ruler of West Bengal, was born in the village of Ekachakra. His father was Hadai Ojha, and his mother Padmavati. From childhood, he was peaceful, intelligent, and virtuous. The resting place of all handsomeness, he defeated millions of Kamadevas. Because of his presence, the land of Radhadesh became all auspicious. Famine and poverty were completely broken. On the day when Lord Chaitanya was born in Navadvip, of course we described some of these pastimes before, Lord Nityananda in Radhadesh roared with happiness. That roar filled countless universes. It made the entire material world fall unconscious. Someone said, that was a thunderbolt. Someone else thought, that was a great calamity. Someone else said, I know the reason for that sound. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the ruler of Bengal, is now roaring with happiness. Although they spoke these different explanations, No one could understand the truth about Lord Nityananda, for they were all bewildered by the Lord's Maya potency. Concealing his true identity, Lord Nityananda happily played with the other boys. Playing games, these are some of the pastimes I described briefly before. Playing games with the other boys, Lord Nityananda imitated Lord Krishna's pastimes. They never played games that were not imitations of the Lord's pastimes. In other words, they never did any Maya thing. The Lord's pretend Maya or illusory thing. The boys pretended they were the council of demigods. One boy pretended he was the earth goddess and presented an appeal. After hearing the earth's prayers, the boys would go to a riverbank and there they would offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One boy, pretending he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, would say, I will take birth in Mathura Gokula. Some evenings, Lord Nityananda and the boys would enact the marriage of Vasudeva and Devaki. Making a prison room late at night, they enacted Lord Krishna's birth where no one was awake. They created a Gokula, took Krishna there, and then tricked Kamsa by giving him Maya. That's Durga. One day, Lord Nityananda dressed one boy as Putana. Another boy climbed on his chest and pretended to drink Putana's breast. One day, Lord Nityananda and the boys made a cart out of reeds and then tore it to pieces. That's the Shikatat Sura demon. Accompanied by the boys, Lord Nityananda entered unseen into a milkman's house and stole from him. The boys, whoops, accompanied by the boys, Lord Nityananda, skipped page. The boys never left Lord Nityananda and returned to their homes. In other words, they stayed with Lord Nityananda. Day and night they played with him. The boys' parents never rebuked Lord Nityananda, rather they affectionately embraced him. They all said, we have never seen anything like these glorious games. How does a small boy know so much about Lord Krishna's pastimes? One day, making a Kaliya serpent out of leaves, he went to the water with all the boys. The boys jumped and fell unconscious. Then Lord Nityananda brought them back to life. Another day, Lord Nityananda and the boys went to Talavan, and he killed Dhenukasura and ate tal fruits. Accompanied by the boys, Lord Nityananda played games where he killed Bakasura, Agasura, and Vatsasura. In the late afternoon, as he and his friends returned home, he would play the buffalo horn bugle again and again. One day he played that he was lifting Govardhan Hill. Another day he created Vrindavan Forest and played there. Another day he stole the gopis' garments. Another day he revealed himself to the Yagya Patnis. A boy dressed as Narada with long hair and a beard gave advice to Kamsa in a secluded place. Another day a boy dressed up as a Krura and brought Krishna and Balaram on Kamsa's order. Lord Nityananda personally took the part of a gopi and wept a river of tears as the boys looked on. Bewildered by Lord Vishnu's Yogamaya, no one could understand Lord Nityananda's true identity. All the boys happily played with him. Creating the city of Mathura, Lord Nityananda walked about with the boys. One boy became a garland maker. Others became wrestlers in the wrestling arena. Another boy dressed up as Kubja and carried fragrances. Lord Nityananda made a bow, broke it, and made a loud sound. It's amazing, all of Krishna's pastimes. These were his childhood activities. After killing Kuvalyapida and the wrestlers Chanura and Mushtika, Lord Nityananda threw Kamsa to the ground and grabbed his hair. After killing Kamsa, Lord Nityananda danced with the boys. Seeing the playing of the boys, all the people smiled and laughed. That's all we have time for today. So tonight we're going to be speaking a little bit more about Lord Nityananda and his pastimes. So all glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lord Nityananda Ki Jai.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvandam Maravindadalayataksham Varhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandar Agom Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Kriya Priti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Giram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami 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 Govindam Adipurusham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham
Namaham Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Motale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Samaniti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gurvani Pacha Devasesha Shunyavagade Vasachade Satarande Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaurata Vrindada Sri Krishna Chaitanya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Bhakti Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radharamana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radharamana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Jaya Radha, looking on the Radha, looking on the Radha. Jaya Radha, looking on the Radha, looking on the Radha. Jaya Rate, Rade, Rade, Rade. Naya Rate, Rade, Rade, Jaya Rade. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe, Jai Om Vishnu Pada. Amanida Deda Kirtaniya Sada Hari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitamba Jagadish Kamaye Janmani Janmanishvare Avada Bhakti Rahai Tuki Twaye Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitamam Vishame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tavapada Pankajas Tita Duli Sadrasam Vichintaya Nayanam Gadodashru Daraya Vadanam Gadgada Rudya Gira Pulaka Nichatam Bapukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati Yugaitam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravishaitam Shunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Vidnahename Slishiva Pada Panashtamam Adarshana Marmatam Karotava Yatadata Bhavadatu Lampato Mat Prananata Susevanapuraham. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon, is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of death, birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy names? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or leaves me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shikshashtaka ki jai. Radhagalukananda ki jai. So, happy Lord Nityananda's appearance day. It's a fast half the day for the devotees. And the deities look very beautiful. Nabukashore.